Welcome to Schooling Around. November is an important month for Oxford schools. We'll be going to the voting booth to decide the fate of bond and sinking fund issues. In a moment, a close-up look at the whats and whys of these and why they are so important. Stay tuned. We all know that as our homes get older, things wear out, even with normal use. Driveways crack, furnaces quit, air conditioners get warm, and the rugs just won't stand one more cleaning. That's life, I guess. Well, it's the same with our schools. Our buildings are getting older and things are wearing out. Many of these things can't be fixed anymore. New technology has made many parts unavailable. Let's start by talking to our head of finance, Sam Barna.
Well, one of the largest components of the bond and sinking fund is putting air conditioning in all of the elementary classrooms throughout the district. As you are well aware, we have 5 elementary schools in the district, and so all of them, there's a severe need, especially going to a year-round calendar more so every year, and having more class being conducted in warmer months. We really need to have these classrooms under air conditioning. And so that is one of the largest components of this bond and sinking fund. In addition to that, we have several issues with our parking lots across all buildings being deteriorated and basically in dire need of repaving, as well as the sidewalks at all of the schools. Furthermore, there are issues with our existing lighting not being as efficient. Obviously, it's standard parking lot lighting that we are looking to convert over to LED parking lot lighting, as well as adding additional lighting in certain circumstances, such as Axford Middle School, which really is in a tough spot due to the fact that there are several existing lamps that either are no longer there in the parking lot or just have never been there, and so we need to add additional parking lot lighting. And of course, if the bond and the sinking fund pass, we would be looking to put in again LED lighting outside.
And I would think that most of this stuff is, seeing as how it's the more modern design of this equipment, is more energy efficient.
Absolutely.
And over the long haul, save the district money.
Absolutely. So the primary issue is that the primary benefit is, I should say, that it is more energy efficient. But in addition to that, being energy efficient, you usually, because of the lower wattage involved, you can get better lighting as well. And so you can theoretically use fewer fixtures to light the same amount of square footage or space that you used to do. So that is another benefit. In addition to that, you mentioned what are the large projects. We have several mechanical issues throughout the district. We obviously have boilers and building controls that are old, out of date, and can no longer be serviced appropriately. So we have, as part of the bond and sinking fund, a replacement of several of these units as well. In addition, we have some air handling units, hence mechanical, as well as some roofing needs throughout the district that in certain circumstances, such as at the high school, are rather expensive to basically complete. And so these needs are something that, in our opinion, are very dire. Due to the age of the roofs, I think that one of our previous discussions was at the high school, and you and I and Mr. Sarkins actually took a tour of the roof at the high school and showed several of those different areas. So those are some of the larger projects. But in addition to that, we also have a need for new buses. Right now our bus fleet, there's about 50 buses that we have within our fleet. Should the bond pass, we're looking to replace up to 15 or 16 buses out of those 50. And so that is something that is desperately needed. Many of our buses exceed 175,000 miles on the odometer, and we are just doing a fantastic job on an annual basis to maintain our buses. Our 2 mechanics are fantastic in our bus garage. But just like anything else, such as your own personal car, you could do the best to your ability to maintain it, but at the end, it'll have a useful life. And when you exceed that useful life, You hopefully won't, but you're going to come close, and you try to reap as much value as possible, and that's what we're trying to do now. But in several circumstances, we need to do replacement. So,
are they thinking of new buses, or are they thinking of, they've been doing a great job of finding some great deals
absolutely.
On some of the auctions that have been going on.
We do. Normally what we do is we have a small capital budget within our transportation budget on an annual basis in the general fund. And normally that's around $125,000 or less. So we utilize that money to purchase buses, used buses at auction. Lightly used buses that we know work for us in the district. So that's been our norm over the last several years. Unfortunately, due to our needs in the larger buses, in other words, most of ours are 65, 72 passenger, we can't find what we're really looking for at auction that are of that variety and of the bus manufacturing type that we're looking for, such as Thomas. It's very difficult to find newer used buses at an affordable cost. So, hence the need for purchasing a portion of our fleet newer.
Next, let's go for a walk and see for ourselves. Over the last few days, I've had the chance to take a look at some of the issues in question. Tony Sarkins, our Chief of Maintenance, shows us around. Let's start at the high school up on the roof.
This is Air Handling Unit 1, AHU1, and it supplies air conditioning to the 300, 400, and 500 hallways within at OHS.
This is a Dick Champs unit, and this is feeding the wrestling area and the weight room and that. This unit's actually in pretty good shape. What needs to happen with this unit is it has to be brought up to date with new controls in it. The controls in this are obsolete, and we have a lot of problems with them, and we need to get them current. So we need the unit still pretty decent shape. We get that. There's a bigger train unit that's sitting up over there that feeds the locker rooms and some of the office areas down there, and that's in pretty good shape up there. Again, we need to change out the controls on it, so that is scheduled into the bond. We keep the units that are in good shape. We upgrade the controls on them. The units like the pool units, the big DeChamps right over here, that runs a lot, that needs to be repaired. We never shut that down. It's in a harsh environment, a chlorine environment. That unit needs to be replaced and have the current controls put into it. This is the pool unit that handles the pool, the climate control for humidity, for fresh air makeup. And it's at the end of its life cycle. We put a lot of money into it, but it constantly needs repair. It's in a really harsh environment. It's in a real chlorine environment and everything like that. So this unit needs to be repaired. As you can see right here, this is the ductwork on it, John. But if you go around here to the side a little bit, you can see the actual unit right up there. And it's a good size unit, but it runs pretty much 24/7. 365.
And that too is over 20 years old, I would imagine.
Well, when this was built with the bond of 03.
03? Oh!
This is all, everything we're at right now is on the 03 bond.
Has technology changed a lot with this kind of thing?
Yes.
Are the units smaller and last longer?
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with controls. The controls have been they're so much more sophisticated. The languages are so much more sophisticated. It's more user friendly. This is back when they had old LAN systems in there, and that we still run under the LAN, which it's a very old system. Everybody's running the new backnet systems and the new controllers. So everything in this building, other than pieces that we have to replace, the controls have to be upgraded in this building so we can manage it better. This is just behind Main Street, just right next to the cafeteria. It's that low-lying area that's always got wet tile in there by the bathrooms, the gang toilets down off the cafeteria. This whole section of roof here also has to be stripped out and replaced. This is on the high school, and this is just outside of the cafeteria. And this roof here is existing. This was built with it's an old Mansville roof. It was built with the existing middle school, which is now the high school, the 3, 4, 500 wing, and it's part of the cafeteria area. And that roof over there, that skylight that's up there, that's part of Main Street. This whole roof section has to be replaced and down through the corridor in the back here. It's just at the end of its life
Tony,
cycle.
we're looking at this pipe-like structure. That's on top of the what there?
That's return air duct that's up there. That's air handling unit number 1 that feeds the 300, 400, and 500 wing of the high school. That thing is at the end of its life cycle. The compressors are going on it. The whole unit needs to be replaced on it. The controls are getting bad on it, and that we've had a lot of problems with it, so we need to have it redesigned, and we need a new air handling unit up on top of the roof.
Just off the top of your head, what does it cost to have something like that done?
Oh, that's quite a bit of money. There's probably at least every bit of $500,000
Existing
plus.
caulking that's in this siding on here all needs to be cut out of here, re-caulked and sealed. I got it all over on the building here.
That was something somebody just tried. They thought they were making repairs on the roof, and they just smeared tar on top of it. And that's an expansion joint, and that has to be stripped out and replaced. This is the original carpeting in the middle school. That's now the high school, and you can see that there's a lot of patches, a lot of wear. We scrubbed this, we get it looking pretty good, but it's just at the end of its life here. You can see that was the original carpet that is right there. That's a piece that we had that we put in there to patch the hole that had worn out in there. So you can tell all the fading and coloring, and there's a huge change in that floor. Let's go up here and look at some of this up here.
Not only the color, but obviously the material is not matted down, as you can tell.
It's all wore out. Once you go through here and you try to, even with a scrubbing machine, this doesn't clean up. I mean, we get some of the staining in that, but you can see that a lot of this is just wore out. It's just had thousands of people, thousands of students running on this, and it's just in really rough shape.
Do they have better quality?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is what
modern times?
Yeah, they got rubber back carpetings that'll hold up a whole lot better. We can get carpet tiles. We can, there's a lot of different products that are out there. This just gets a lot of traffic. This went from a middle school environment to a high school environment. Where we got 1,800 students in here that we've got, Sam. And you can see, like here, we've got another little patch that we put down in here. You can see all the other patches that we've been patching because this stuff is starting to unfray. It's starting to peel. The whole carpeting. Oh, this is the 300 and 500 halls. This is the 400 halls. Everything down through here needs to be repaired.
Next, over to the middle school. We're taking a walk with Tony Sarkins, our Chief of Maintenance, looking at things in need of updating with bond and sinking funds. Let's pick up with Tony at our middle school.
This is, I call this the west parking lot. This is the big main parking lot in the front of the middle school here. And you can see the old cedar poles. They're old, they're rotten. They got the original heads. And as you pan off to the left here, John, you'll see that over the years the heads have failed, and they broke or fell off. They've never replaced them. There's one out in the back here, even farther to the left, so there's no lighting in the back of that parking lot. In the bond we're proposing is to put all new poles and LED fixtures on them. So we'll have high efficient, clean light. It'll be safe and secure for the community.
We're standing here at Axford Middle School looking at the walkway going up there.
In the entryway at the middle school. And you can just see how the old pavement's just starting to fail. It's at the end of its life cycle. It's getting pretty hazardous out here.
Is this the original?
This is the original out here. All the way around this, needs to be reconstructed. And this is what bothers me, is these are trip hazards. These are things that you'll catch your feet on that just dissimilar on the sidewalk. This all needs to be replaced. This is replacement concrete. It's right in front of the main entry. This was all deteriorated. You can see how nice and clean it looks after we replace it. I'll be able to leave that in place and replace the rest of this to that. But it made this safe. This was really a bad tripping hazard, and we replaced that.
And one thing you mentioned earlier is that when you do piecemeal replacements like this, you tap into the general fund to do that. And that obviously decreases the general fund that could be used for other things.
That's where it makes the, we make payroll and everything from the general fund for the district, so it's monies that that we're not going to be able to put into the classrooms, we're going to put back into the buildings. Here we are on Wildcat Drive, and this is another example of like where I patched in. We had this patched in last year, and then all of it's starting to fail underneath, and it's just all pumping out, and this is a good example of needing to get full reconstruction of the driveway down through here. Some of these sections down through we'll have to get them looked at, but maybe we could do some mill and capping on it, but for the most part of it, I think it's full reconstruction that has to be done through here. And this is right in front of transportation.
And you were telling me that some of these drainage
drainage structures, what happens is they wash out and the manholes collapse. So we've had to take and reconstruct the manholes and pour concrete collars around the manholes, the lids, and the rings on the tops to make them structurally sound again. And then we poured the concrete, like a 10 by 10 or 8 by 10 concrete collar around them, in which we'll be able to leave those in place, so when we come back and we do the reconstruction on the asphalt, we'll work right up to that new concrete.
Okay, we're looking at Wildcat Drive again. Yep. And we're looking at the old section back there, but tell us what happened here with the new section.
Now, the new section, this is when they brought township brought the new water main that goes back and feeds the trailer, Lakeville Villa. Yep. The park back there. They brought the water through here. We allowed them to bring it through the property, and they reconstructed this piece of pavement. This will give you a perfect example of what it will look like after we reconstruct the rest of Wildcat Drive. John, here's another example of what we're going to do with the bond is we're going to replace in these poles. These poles have 400 watt bulbs in them, high pressure sodium bulbs in them, and these fixtures are obsolete, so they need to be replaced with LED fixtures, which will make them energy efficient and make a cleaner, brighter light out on Wildcat Drive.
Some road issues at OES too. We'll go there in a moment. The elementary schools need some work too. Let's stop by Axford Elementary with Tony.
This is the very south drive of OE child care. This is going into our child care.
Now, how long has it been since this was paved?
It's probably it's probably back in the, I would say probably 80s. I can't tell you for sure the exact date on it, but I know you can tell that this is every bit of 20 years old.
Okay, these were last year's patches?
Yeah, we did some last year. Every year this is a non-recurring thing that we're doing. We're spending a lot of money trying to patch in these spots in here, but this is how bad this road is deteriorated right here now. And then this is not even, we can't do a mill and a cap on this. This requires a full reconstruction on this driveway. This around here, around the horseshoe, this is where all the buses come in. This is where the parents come in for the child care. Now I'm going to do some more patching on this right here, but this is reoccurring, and it's costing thousands of dollars to keep it maintained, and I've got it throughout the district.
So what you have to do is tear it all out and build a new one, right?
Complete reconstruction. Pull it out. It'll go back in the same place, and then put it all back in. We'll have to put new 5 inches of pavement.
Yeah, and you were saying like what they're doing to a lot of our roads now is they're coming in with these big machines and taking off just the top of the pavement and then replacing just that. But
there's some savings in some of those, but we can't do that in this case. There's some parking lots in the district that we can do some milling and recapping on it, but in this case, this is a full reconstruction on this driveway. That's a high pressure sodium fixture that's up there. They're very inefficient. We're going to, in the bond, take those fixtures off and replace them with LED fixtures. Those are probably 400 watt bulbs. We replace them with LED bulbs. It would be more of the, like 50, 60 watts. It would be nice, bright, clean light instead of having this yellow dull light. and we change out all these wall packs all around the building, and it'll just get a tremendous, they'll get a lot better lighting around the building for security and safety. And also we're going to be adding in some poles back here, John, on the roadway to help improve on the lighting for the district.
Okay, Tony, we're looking at the, what is this called, rubber chip?
This is the base, the rubber, and it happens to be ground up tires that would die. And it's just really hard to maintain. It's not really good. It gets all over the place. As part of the bond, we're going to take the structure and upgrade the structure, improve on it, and we're going to remove all this blue mulch that's in here, and we're going to take it and we're going to put in the wood chip mulch like this playground on the backside here. This is a new playground that was done last year as part of the daycare program, and that's all, nice wood chips, wood mulch in there that's a foot thick. This is a new playscape that PTO put together, the program people. They supported and raised the money and did a community build on this and put this webscape in there with that wood chip mulch in there. So our goal is to take now this playground right here, upgrade where we can, and put in new mulch in this whole area.
Yeah, you can see those rubber chips all over the place.
They're all over the place.
When was this in vogue, this rubber?
I don't know. It was for a few years. And,
was it kind of a recycling sort of thing?
Exactly. It was a recycling thing. It became a fad for a few years, and I think everybody's gotten away from it now.
Next on our map is Daniel Axford. Boilers, controls, and carpeting, all on the list at Daniel Axford Elementary 2.
We were talking a little bit about controls and that are scheduled in the bond coming up here. And what we've got, these boilers are scheduled to be replaced, and we can pan on them. But while we're in this position right here, this is the old UP CMs that need to be replaced. These are obsolete. I can't get parts for them, and the software is obsolete. This is pretty typical, not in every case, but it's quite typical throughout the district. Every piece of equipment in the district that runs has one of these controllers on it, and these need to be replaced. If you pan over here to look at these boilers, these PKs right here are at the end of their life cycle right now, and they're 20 years old, and these are scheduled to be replaced in here. And we're at Daniel Axford. And again, this continuation of the controls in the district for the different equipment. This particular control that we're looking at right now is an older version of an RX controller that we're going to be upgrading to, but this is even outdated. We have to replace the Summit Tracer here, which is a piece of train equipment. This will now drive the existing air handler that's there. So this just shows you a little bit more of a variation of what has to happen that going forward when we get the new controls in the district. This is going into the boiler room, and this is scheduled to be replaced. This is an existing outside doors, hollow metal doors. They're going to be replaced with FRP doors. You can see that they're all rotting out. It's causing a lot of damage on the concrete. I've also hit the other set of doors that were in the fan room right next door where the air handler was. That's starting to decay quite badly too, and that's going to be replaced.
This gives you an idea of some of the physical issues that need to be dealt with at our schools. Next, Assistant Superintendent of Finance, Sam Barna, explains what we'll see on the ballot.
I used to think news is news. It's all the same. But it's not. There's a big difference between local broadcast news and cable news. See, local stations are part of my community, connecting me to local news, weather, and sports on every device. It makes sense. Get the news from the people I trust who actually live here. No agenda, no bias like on cable shout shows or social media, just facts. For news I can trust, I stay local. Support your local stations. Text TV to 52886 today.
Sam Barna is in charge of business and finance for our district. He explains just what the bond and sinking funds are all about.
So the $28.28 million bond is we do not foresee any millage increase if this passes on November 7th.
So that will not affect anybody's taxes?
We don't foresee any increases in taxes if that bond passes.
Is that because it replaces something else that was in force before?
So every year, the school district, any school district in the state of Michigan, for that matter, has a certain amount of debt on their books for past bonds. And so, just like any other district, we are paying off both principal and interest on our current debt. And so that enables us to, with our current 7.9 million, our 7.9 debt mills, that enables us, since we're paying off both debt and principal, I should say principal and interest for that past debt, it enables us to have additional debt that we could take on to do needed improvements that I've just explained to you.
So it's kind of like a refi that doesn't change the payment.
Well, it's not a refi because we're not taking any existing debt in that regard and refinancing it. What we're doing is taking on new debt to do new projects across the districts that are across the district that's necessary. And so right now we're in a pretty low interest rate environment still. And so if the bond does pass, we would be issuing debt across the next 6 years in 3 different phases. And hopefully, if the debt market stays very similar to what it is, that new debt that we would be incurring would be at a relatively low interest rate comparative to historical years of 10, 15 years ago, as an example. In addition to the bond that I just discussed, there's also a $4 million sinking fund. And what that is a 0.75 mils, so it is an added cost to the district taxpayers if it is approved on November 7th. And it would be 0.75 mils each of the next 5 years. And so how do you equate that as to a tax increase for your average homeowner or property owner is every $100,000 of taxable value of property is an additional $75 per year over the next 5 years as well. And so that sinking fund, again, is $4 million, and it is $2.6 million of that $4 million is to cover basically the construction projects that can't be covered in total by the bond. We have a need in the district that exceeds $32 million for construction projects, as I mentioned. The bond can only do 28.28 without increasing our debt mills. So again, no millage increase expected. That's why we're doing a sinking fund to cover a gap of $2.6 million, plus an additional $1.4 million. Of that $1.4 million, $1.25 million is for new instructional technology devices for our students, in addition to $150,000 of safety and security. So basically cameras across the district, both internal and external at each building, whether replacing or adding additional cameras for safety and security.
You talk about so many dollars of tax increase for every $100,000 of value. You know how they evaluate property at 50% of what they think they could get if they sold the place for? You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
What are we talking about? The gross value or the net value?
Well, really what it is, usually you have a market value on your home, and generally people like to say that half of the market value is your taxable value.
Right.
But to be honest with you, it depends on when you purchased and or sold your home, and so that's why I don't like to use market value. I like to say, people, please, residents, take a look at your taxable value, your latest tax statement. That taxable value on there is a good indicator of what your taxable value is going to be next year. It's a good approximation. So you could take your latest tax bill, and if the sinking fund does indeed pass on November 7th, you can multiply that 0.75 mils times your taxable value to get a great indication of what the increased tax bill would be to your home or business or property in general.
So there you have it. The bond is a replacement loan for one we paid off, no increase. The sinking fund's impact on your property taxes will average between $6 and $7 per month per $100,000 of taxable value. Be sure to vote on November 7th. It's important. So are the needs. Our thanks to Sam Barna and Tony Sarkins, and of course Kyle Snage at the controls, Dan Weiss at the desk, and you for watching. This is Oxford Community Television, keeping it local.